Hi guys, welcome back to another pottery video. This week I'm looking at making these really angular jars or bowls. I've really enjoyed making them because what I quite like about clay is that it's quite an organic material, and trying to create something that's quite sharp and angular was a real challenge for me. I was also inspired quite a bit by Florian Gatsby and some of his work. So I tried to kind of replicate his style a little bit into some of the jars that I've created this week. So I hope you like the video. Let me know your comments below and sit back and enjoy. So I thought I'd show you a little bit of behind the scenes before I start throwing this week. And what I do before any project is I get my little book open and I'll do a very rough basic sketch. And this will help me figure out how big I want the vessel to be, but also the shape and the dimensions of it too. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be creating this really angular jar, so I wanted to kind of make some angle shapes as well as define the width and the height. Once that's done, I'll then move on to the throwing itself. So I'll begin by throwing the clay onto the potter's wheel and just running my hands over it, letting the ball slide underneath it and slowly forming that rough ball shape. Using my index finger, I'll press the ball down onto the wooden slab before then beginning to cone and centre the clay. Here's a close-up of me coning and centering the clay. As you can see, just really slowly raising the clay up and then using the palm of my hand, pushing the clay forwards and down. Once I'm happy with that, I'll take my thumb and press it into the centre of the clay, opening it up, and then begin opening the walls further. So I'll again use my thumb, and instead of pushing down, I'll push out. And using my index fingers, just pushing and compressing down the base. I've noticed there's a slight wobble, so just correcting for that now to make sure that the opening is nice and smooth before I begin pinching. Once happy with that, I'll place my outside hand slightly lower and my inside hand slightly higher, and I'll begin to pinch the walls, raising it up nice and high to create that tall vessel shape. Once I've got the right height, I'll then come in with the wooden kidney and begin to press it in from the inside of the vessel, pushing the clay outwards and against the surface of the wooden kidney. Once I'm happy with the bottom, I'll then move on to pulling in the top ever so slightly. It was too vertical at this stage, so I wanted to just pinch it in first before coming in again with the kidney and tidying it up. A little bit later on now, and I'm just creating that final lip which will slightly overhang. This was a real challenge for me, and I kept making them slightly too thin, but was happy with the result. Then I just used a little pin and pierced the edge, and this allowed me to create a really nice clean finish. Using a fettle, I'll then just absorb some of the excess water and slip from inside of the vessel, and this will allow it to dry out much more evenly and consistently. I'll run a wire underneath and then remove the vessel from the board and set it aside for a couple of days to dry. So it's now leather hard. I want to attach it back to the wheel, so just using some slip, I'll lay it down and then place the vessel on top. I'm still learning how to tap center, so what I'm doing here is just checking for some wobbles and then just repositioning it slightly. Once I'm happy with that, I'll then tap the wooden bat on the top, and that will help me create a really good contact and connection with the wheel itself. I'll then use some blobs of clay and just attach them around the base, and this will help to make sure that the vessel doesn't wobble or veer off when the extra pressure of the trimming tool is applied to the surface. So first I'll come in with this smaller tool here and remove larger chunks of clay, and I'll continue to do that until I'm happy with the direction of the wall. I want the wall to be a really steep, really sharp, clean surface. I'll then repeat the process with the top part. Again, just chipping away at it, trying to make the wall nice and consistent. Here I'm holding my hand as still as I can and then letting the ceramic vessel scrape against the piece, and that will allow me to get it really nice and consistent. You can see there's a slight wobble, but this is actually because I haven't trimmed the base yet. So when I flip the vessel in a minute, that should correct for it. Next, I'm using this larger trimming tool, and this allows me to help trim the surfaces a bit more for those finishing touches, but it also burnishes it as well, which is quite useful. And again, it just really adds to creating that really consistent, really clean, sharp shape. So I'll again repeat this process several times until I'm happy with the final piece. I'm still building my confidence in trimming. I've noticed that some of my pots I'm under trimming and they become a bit heavier and weighted at the bottom. So that's something I need to work on. Holding the vessel slightly, I'll just spin the wheel ever so slightly like that, and that will allow me to then pop the vessel away. As mentioned previously, the lip didn't quite work out as intended, so I've decided to actually remove it. So just removing it with that pin, and then I'll use the trimming tool to just tidy it up. It was actually quite a happy accident because it made the lip of the vessel really flat rather than that round shape that you'd usually expect to see. So I think for angle pots in the future, I might still have the same approach and remove it too. Once I'm happy with the walls, I'll then flip the vessel and begin trimming the foot and the base. Again, just tap centering it, getting it nice and center, and then using the bat to apply some even downward pressure to ensure that it remains in place. I've then got this little spinny thing here that I'll place on top to allow me to give a bit more downward pressure, and then I'll continue to trim away at the base of the vessel till it follows a similar kind of contour as everything above it. Repeating this process, I'll use the small trimming tool, then followed by the larger one, as you can see here. This process took quite a bit of time. Angular forms were quite a new shape for me, so I'm hoping in the future, as I build confidence in this new form, that I can really bring that time down. A lot of the time is now spent on trimming, so again, once I get more confident in being able to remove more clay at once, I think that will really help speed up the trimming process for me too. So now just finalising the foot, carving it in slightly so it's recessed, and then just tidying up the feet. Removing the vessel, I'll then want to come in with a damp sponge and just tidy up the lip and the rim of the pot. And that's all there is to it. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed my content. And if you want to give us a little subscribe, feel free.